Hi everyone, it's Kino here. This is a yoga pose tutorial about the posture called Navasana or boat pose. You're probably familiar with this asana as a core strength killer. Well, I might not kill you today in the practice, and that's no laughing matter, but seriously, having good technique in Navasana or boat posture helps make sure that you're working the proper muscles and building strength. Sometimes when a posture is strength-based, you put in so much work, but if your technique isn't really aligned well, then what ends up happening is you put in all this work, and it's so frustrating because you feel like you don't get the results. So let's break down Navasana so that you make sure that every time you find yourself floating in your boat, you won't sink, and you won't necessarily swim, but you'll definitely have a good time. Okay, Navasana, here we go. So first things first, let's start with the pelvis. So important with the position of the pelvis. Many people make a mistake with Navasana and feel like they have to be on the very front of the sitting bones. So if you do this with me right now, you'll find that if you're on the front of your sitting bones, check in with what part of your body actually activates, and you'll find that it's your back muscles. So in Navasana, we want the front body to activate more than the back body. So if you're on the front of your sitting bones and you try to pivot back, you end up in this really awkward position where your back muscles need to do so much work and the knees spread apart. It's almost impossible to straighten the legs, right? However, when you think about Navasana as more of like a boat, you can think of your pelvis as creating kind of like a round boat bottom. So try that with me now, where you're in a seated position and your knees are gently bent. Then come off the front of your sitting bones and slowly tuck your tailbone a little, just a little, not like super round, but just a little, so you can find just the hint of that boat bottom, that roundedness. Then activate the pelvic floor, knit the muscles of the lower abdomen together. So in other words, activate your lower abs. And a little piece of a bamboo just came to visit me. Then draw the knees in towards each other and let the back and the whole torso just kind of be a unit so that the front body knits together and the whole body is stacked in line, not necessarily bending back and not bending forward. Then extend the arms. And here you have the basis of Navasana, so that your front body squeeze is giving you an anchor that can help lift the spine up out of the pelvis. If you want to take it to another level, you can point your feet. So this is your most basic version of Navasana. If this is still real challenging, you can hold underneath the knees, but make sure that the work is being done primarily inside the pelvis, not with the arms. As soon as you hold on with the arms, it's like the rest of the body sometimes seems to let go. Okay, let's give that a rest for a moment. So you may have already felt this very familiar kind of burning sensation in your hip flexors here. Unfortunately, this happens usually due to either fatigue or misalignment. If it's misalignment, draw the knees together and focus more on activating the lower abs. If it's just fatigue, there's nothing really you can do about that. Just observe that it's there, keep practicing, and you'll get stronger over many years of practice. Now, to take Navasana up just a little bit of a notch, getting the legs off the ground, we have to understand how to lift the legs. So take your fingers behind you, and then let's try two techniques. If you try to lift your leg by kicking, your leg goes out, the belly pooches out, and that hip flexor comes right on. So if you try to kick the legs, then it feels like you're pushing out, they get real heavy. However, if you draw the legs up into the body and then think about the thigh bones moving down into that bowl of the pelvis, they're a little lighter. Make sense? Should we try it again? Fingers behind you, toes point. Get that bowl inside the pelvis, just a nice little gentle boat bottom. Pelvic floor is on, low belly inside, lean a little back. Then the thigh bones pop up by dropping deeper down into the pelvis. So it's like a little riddle. They lift up by dropping down. Hold it for 5 here. 1, 2, 3, keep working. 4, come up onto one finger, and if it's accessible for you, give me the arms forward. 3, 4, keep working. 5, relax. Okay, shake that out for a moment. Now we're gonna go for the Navasana with the straight legs. Before we do that, here's a couple of pointers. Number 1, if your hamstring flexibility is challenged, then don't try to stretch your hamstrings in the middle of Navasana. Instead, work your forward fold and other postures and just bend your knees in Navasana. Number 2, don't hit it too hard. Slow and steady and this will take you into the posture. Focus more on feeling and sensitivity, and understand that less is often more in your yoga practice. Lastly, don't be afraid of shaking. In Navasana, it's real common for the body to shake and tremble a little bit. And as long as that's located in the muscles of the body and your joints feel totally safe, that's just the natural strengthening process. Just like if you were gonna go to the gym and like lift weights or something, there might be some shaking or trembling here and there. Nothing to be afraid of. You might be sore the next day, but you'll also be just a little bit stronger. Okay, let's delay no further, and here we go. Point your feet, lean a little back, get that round boat bottom, and then think about thigh bones into the pelvis. Keeping the thigh bones into the pelvis, pull them down even more, and then straight legs. And we'll hold that for 5 breaths. 1, quadriceps are burning a little, it's okay. 2, point the feet, base of the big toes together. 3, 4, come up onto one fingertip. If everything feels good, give me straight arms. Look at the feet. 1, keep working. 2, 3, belly inside. 4, 5, relax. Okay, shake that out. Now, this was Navasana, so let's also take a look at what you want to avoid. We already talked about if you stiffen the back and use the back muscles instead of the front body, something to avoid. Second thing to avoid in Navasana is going too low. So if you're in Navasana and you're out too low or too much on your back, then this is a different version of a boat. Before you start thinking about lowering your Navasana to what I often call the canoe shape, you want to make sure that your basic boat is really strongly established. Traditionally, it's said that you want to be able to repeat Navasana 3 to 5 times in a row to sort of test yourself, make sure your core strength is there before you start to try to deepen your Navasana. Last misalignment that I often see that I want to take a look at is when we are too tight in Navasana. This is a great variation, like a speedboat, but we want to be able to have this basic, easy, kind of like a happy sailboat position before we start trying to go deeper. So here we are, Navasana, a nice friendly boat posture. Evaluate yourself, check in, what kind of boat, do I have? How's my boat doing today? Am I sinking? Am I swimming? But most importantly, am I having a good time? So remember that the journey of yoga is always a journey into the center of yourself. There are lessons within each posture. Always ask yourself, what is it that this posture has to teach me? What is Navasana actually about? Does it bring up stuff for you? So there are many other ways to modify Navasana for different sizes and shapes and different levels of strength and flexibility. I encourage you to find the way that works best for your body. For example, depending on your hip joint flexibility and depending on the size and shape of your body, it may be more comfortable for you to keep your feet just a little bit apart or your knees a little bit apart. But eventually, what you're thinking about, regardless of what modification you're using to get into the posture, what you're thinking about is how to integrate the deep work of the yoga practice into your body and also into your life. So remember, if you want to join me for the full length practice, that's on omstars.com. You can click the link below, join the challenge, and you get a 14-day free trial for new students so you can practice with me, no commercials, and have a really amazing experience of your yoga practice. That's what I want everyone who comes to the practice to have, a truly amazing experience of mind, body, and spirit connection. And I know that when you touch that point of unity, it transforms your whole life, makes you a happier, more peaceful person, and makes your whole world a happier and more peaceful place. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Namaste.